What is up, everybody? I am Joseph. This is Joseph's Place, and welcome to this video. This video is going to be a little bit different than my normal style of videos, so if this is not something you really want to see, by all means don't watch it. This is being made for a very specific reason. I just really want to talk about something that's going on in the community right now and give my opinion towards it. So specifically, this is a video in response to Autumn Elegy's new video, Complaints in Old School RuneScape. So just before I even start, I want to say that I absolutely love Autumn Elegy's content in general. I've been following him since before he even got popular. I remember when I first started YouTube, he had just a few more subscribers than me, and I was already hooked on his content. And I still respect and enjoy watching his content and him as a player and a person. In general, I really enjoy listening to his opinions coming from someone who's high-end in the community. And I just want to preface it by saying this video is by no means a shot at him. And even after everything I'm going to say, I still respect him as a person, and I still will continue to watch his content. But I do just have a few questions about the most recent video he's made, and I want to kind of address them in this video. Recently, Autumn Elegy has come under fire for being a little bit of, for lack of a better term, I guess, elitist in terms of how he sees content. And I think this was really shown in the whole Mining Todd just discussion, where he was a little bit of against it. This was, I think, recently after he got 200 mil mining, and the Reddit community specifically kind of attacked him for it. And I was always on his side. I definitely saw where he's coming from, and I still do even now. But I think his new video is honestly a few steps in the wrong direction. So starting with the video, I think the first 15 minutes of it were fantastic. He was talking about things he doesn't like in the game, giving his opinions on certain activities related to skilling, and while I may not agree with all of his opinions, I thought they were very well presented, and he gave his reasoning behind each of his points. However, my issue really begins at around the halfway mark at around 13 minutes. My confusion really starts around the 13-minute mark when he starts to talk about how AFKing, his opinions on AFKing and how they're related to incentives in the game. Now, I honestly agree with his opinion on AFKing. I may not uphold it so much because I do quite a bit of it myself, but I see where he's coming from, and for the most part, I agree with it. However, he made a comment that stated Jagex needs to, and I'm paraphrasing, but Jagex needs to create creative content that forces people to play the game actively and not just passively play it. Now, I agree. I think RuneScape and old school RuneScape should be a game that's actively played, and AFKing shouldn't be a majority of the content. But then he talks about incentives, where he mentions that giving incentives such as achievement diaries and skill cape perks makes people do things that they don't inherently want to, and really it makes them do more parts of the game than the specific area that they enjoy. Now, I'm not going to say I disagree or agree with this point, but there's a contradiction here, and this contradiction and this style of contradiction is carried throughout the rest of the video, and it honestly just confuses me. It seems like this video was made very haphazardly and with very little organization. For example, at 1550, he starts to talk about incentives again, and he makes an interesting point where he gauges the overall enjoyment based on his opinion. And this is where he kind of stops giving his opinion in this video and starts to imply what he's saying are more facts. Personally, I find enjoyment out of reaching a milestone and achieving an incentive, not just in this game, but in life in general, like at work. I find it very hard to stay after work for a few hours if there's no incentive for me to do that. If there's no, bonus in pay, or if I'm not trying to complete a certain objective, there's really no reason for me to consistently stay after work. And while I'm not trying to bash his opinion, because again, it is his opinion and I'm not going to criticize that fact, the way he states it just makes it seem like what he's saying is absolute fact, and that having an opposing opinion is wrong, which is kind of the opposite of what an opinion should be. And this is really where, in my opinion, the video just gets incredibly confusing. Now, I'm going to jump ahead to about 1730 in the video. Autumn Elegy describes the community as lazy, short-sighted, and incapable of accepting others who have a different opinion than they do without throwing insults. Now, I understand that a lot of what Autumn Elegy is referring to is probably fueled by how the community has reacted towards him lately, but I think this video is doing the exact opposite of what he's trying to get across. This video is not just about giving opinions on activities in the game anymore at this point, 17 minutes in. It's his opinion about the game as a whole while completely ignoring people who play the game for different reasons. The second part of this video would be perfectly fine if he made it clear that he was giving his opinion towards these matters, but it's said in a very complaining way that makes it seem like he feels that his opinions are fact, and he's really doing what he's criticizing the community for. And I definitely agree on his comment about toxicity, but I think he's just adding to that pool of toxicity by ignoring the fact that other people play the game in maybe an even inefficient way, and he's criticizing the opinions of the majority by accusing the majority of voters who vote in polls that their opinion is more or less irrelevant. And I think at 1803 in the video is really where it starts to take off. He mentions that people don't think of the game from a design standpoint when he does the same thing. And this will be the last point of this video where I really try to touch on just my confusion with this video, and I just don't understand why it was made or what the overall goal was. So Autumn Elegy mentions that in the closing of his video that he really doesn't care if Jagex makes money or if the game grows as a whole. He wants to play the game like he likes to play it. Again, given that it's an opinion, that's totally fine. I may not agree with it, but an opinion is just that. It's an opinion. I don't have to agree with every opinion that everyone gives. But this statement is said after he mentions that people who vote don't think about game design or don't think about the questions from a game design standpoint. Well, coming from a business standpoint, how would the game look if it remained the same, but both in terms of content and in users? I can't imagine a company would keep a branch around that consistently performed below par in order to keep a minority of higher end customers happy. In this situation, it would be ignoring those who vote in a poll, which would be the majority, in favor of a much smaller group who have played the game for the most amount of time and want it to remain the way they've played it. This would be basically suicide for any business, and I can't imagine any business would sustain this type of activity. It's not sustainable from a financial standpoint or from just a feasibility standpoint. And I just don't understand where Autumn Elegy is coming from in terms of, if he does want the game to remain the same, does that mean he doesn't want to play the game at all? Because if it completely remained the same, for one, you might as well just play a private server at that point, but also it wouldn't be able to grow as a game. Autumn Elegy makes it very clear that he has a very strict opinion on the game, and that's perfectly fine, but saying that the game should be designed around his opinion, and that's the air that he gives off in this video, is that he thinks it should be designed around him, and just the way he talks about it and portrays it is very matter of fact. And if the game was made like that, let's be honest, the game would not grow and would probably not be around anymore. This is very plainly seen by the fact that a majority votes in the polls, and what a 75% of the game population wants is what happens. If those players were consistently ignored, then those players would stop playing. And from a business standpoint, it's much more beneficial to cater towards the majority of people who want something rather than the minority who want the thing to stay the same. It's very difficult, again, from Jagex's standpoint, to make decisions that would bottleneck the game, when in reality this game does need to progress and have updates to grow, and it needs to grow in order to remain a business. I think the biggest issue I have with Caleb's video is that it's very hypocritical in a lot of areas, and it's very contradictory with itself. He makes a lot of points that he later contradicts with different wording, and it just doesn't seem like it was clearly presented. Now, I think his opinion, presented in an organized and clear way, could be very helpful and could be taken very positively. However, I just don't understand the reasoning for uploading this video, and I think someone from his position should be more aware of that. I understand if he's trying to cut down on his subscribers to be people who have a like mind, but he's in a position where there's a lot of people following him, and there's no reason to release a video like this where there's very little organizational structure. You can tell that it was really just a rant. He just turned a recorder on and started to rant, and you can see that by the fact that there are a lot of hypocritical statements, and there's a lot of contradiction between what he's saying, between his own opinions. You can tell that it's not very well organized, and it just makes his channel look very poor in general. And I get that he doesn't really care about numbers at this point, which is perfectly fine, but I guess I'm a little disappointed that he stooped to a level of just ranting instead of being more organized and logical with his argument. Again, I really respect and appreciate a lot of what Autumn Elegy does for this community. And honestly, his opinion, his base opinion in this video, which is that the updates for skilling need to be more creative and shouldn't cater towards a casual group of players, I 100% agree with that. And I would love this video if he said that in a more organized and structured way. Again, my major problem with this video is that I think he doesn't really think through a lot of the stuff he's talking about, and he contradicts himself a lot, and he says things that he may not fully have thought through. Mainly, let's look at polling, for example. He criticizes the way polling is as a feature, while also making it clear that he wants his minority opinion made in the game. There's just a lot of situations in this video where he could have been a lot more clear, and it just confuses me. And I just don't understand. Caleb, if you are watching this video, I would love to talk to you about this. It's something that interests me a lot, and while I may not be a maxed or high-end player, this whole concept really interests me, and I'd love to discuss it with you. Again, I'm not trying to criticize or roast Autumn Elegy at all. I still am going to stay subscribed and watch every single one of his videos and as many streams as I can, catch that I have time for. But this video was very poorly made, and I think could be structured in a way that would make this a much more positive video to get the point across. I'm just completely confused why this video was uploaded, and it just concerns me because I don't want to see a content creator like Caleb just stop making content due to the backlash, and I don't want him to cater towards people who dislike his videos, but I just don't want to see him get burnt out and stop uploading content, because his type of content, there's not a lot of that around, and I love to watch it and I love to see more of it. So I guess this is mainly just a concern towards the quality and the overall content of Autumn Elegy's channel, and I'm just confused on what the purpose of uploading this video is. But that is all I have for this video. Again, just a response on that video. If you have any comments, leave them below. This may be a heated topic, but it's just something I really wanted to talk about because it just confused me, and I had some opinions about his opinions. But again, that is all I have for this video. I hope you did enjoy it, and I will see you next time.